What's happening, members of D12? Back at it again, coming at you with some more power rankings. It's your commissioner. Oh, language alert. I didn't mention this last time. I forgot to mention this last time, but the name of the song, the intro song yesterday, was Rebirthing, and that is the St. Louis Pseudopods theme song for the year. It's an infant team. After Brian pulled a Brian, he left him with nothing, and yeah. So this year is his rebirthing. It's going to take him a few years to get back to contending, I think, with his infant team. The song that I chose for the Hurricanes is The Next Episode, referring to next year, referring to 2017, hashtag TB in 17. I've got the license plate frame. At the beginning of last year, you guys voted me number 1 as best owner. It's been a rough year last year, and it proves to be another rough year this year. But I do have the promise of another of a good future starting next year with 8 draft picks, which I know you are all well aware. But this is not about next year. I promise not to talk about next year a whole lot in this video. This is about this year and what my team looks like, and it's not good. Right now, I have Andy Dalton penciled in as my quarterback. His projections are slightly higher than Winston. Probably can play the matchups between those two. Dalton, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, was a top 5 quarterback, so he can put up some numbers. He's got AJ, he's got Tyler Boyd. Once Eifert comes back, he's got a good running back duo of Gio and Jeremy Hill. He could put up some numbers. Winston, second year in the league. I like him more for the future. Yeah, I don't really like my quarterbacks this year a whole lot, but I don't really care about this year. Moving on to the wide receivers. I think I have 14. Let me count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Oh, only 13. Well, 14 if I count Stevie Johnson, who's on my injured reserve. But my wide receiver 1 is much better suited as a wide receiver 3 in Tyler Lockett. I do expect him to over 900 yards, over 70 catches, over 5 touchdowns. Those aren't wide receiver 1 numbers, but that's what I got because my wide receivers cannot stay off the drugs. Next up, we got a couple rookies, Laquan Treadwell and Corey Coleman. Treadwell, I think, is going to be the best wide receiver in this draft. Excellent route runner. Hopefully Bridgewater doesn't hold him back. I think his floor is pretty high. Maybe his ceiling isn't quite as high as Doxton in the future, but I'm happy to have Treadwell on my team. Not expecting a ton out of him this year. Corey Coleman, with him, and then if we look down at my flex, I got Josh Gordon down there once he comes back from suspension. Gordon probably becomes my wide receiver 1 after that. 2 Cleveland wide receivers, not the offense that you want to have a lot of stock in. Then when you couple that with I got Duke Johnson as well. Coleman was just the best option there at pick 5. Gordon, last year of his contract, as of right now, he is my franchise option for next year, so that's why I'm hanging on to him. I did receive an offer from Durs, Josh Gordon for John Brown, but I declined. Gordon still has the upside. He was the best wide receiver just 3 years ago. Man, that's a long time ago. Yeah, I'll probably sit on him. Then if I look at my bench for wide receiver, Kenny Stills was coming on. He was ahead of Devontae Parker. His back tightened up. It remains to be seen how serious that is. I almost dropped him 2 weeks prior to the auction, but I hung on to him. If he gets healthy, maybe he stays ahead of Parker. I don't really think so. But then I also have Leonte Carew down in Miami, so if Stills isn't healthy, then Carew moves in to the wide receiver 3 slot. So I have more vested interest, I guess, in Leonte than Kenny at this point. Perpetual fantasy disappointment, Devontae Adams is also on my team. Um, Dynasty Nerd still has him in their top 100 overall. I can't drop him. Maybe I'm looking to move on from him. I don't know. Jalen Strong, similar to Devontae Adams, a disappointment. He could be wide receiver 2 in Houston. He could be wide receiver 4 in Houston. With those 2 rookies, Braxton Miller and Will Fuller there. Doesn't look strong for strong. Martavis Bryant, not playing this year. Still got him for 2 more additional years if he can get himself healthy. A couple guys on 3-year, $3 contracts in Devin Smith and Seth Roberts. Smith might be dropped just because I need the open contract years for next year with all my draft picks. Wasn't going to talk about next year. I might drop Devin Smith. If Seth Roberts impresses, maybe I look to move him later on in the season. And then Jermaine Kearse and DeAndre Smelter. A couple flyers. Hopefully one of those pans out. Those are both expiring contracts, so maybe I can move them for more future assets. I don't know what else I could possibly get. Maybe draft picks in 2018. Looking at the running backs, I already mentioned Duke Johnson. Arian Foster right now is my RB2, an expiring contract. I will probably look to move him if he can stay healthy, if he does what he did last year. And then in my flex, I got Charles Sims, one of 2 guys to have over 500 rushing yards and 500 receiving yards last year. The other being Devontae Freeman. So Sims is a PPR darling. I think he was running back 15 overall last year, despite Doug Martin having a top 5 season. I got him for $5 for 3 years. I'm super happy with that contract. Marshawn Lynch, probably not coming back. It was a buck. Rob Kelly, currently the second running back in Washington, ahead of Keith Marshall, and Matt Jones is already banged up. Maybe that turns into something. I did only sign him to 1 year. And then Mike Gillislee. I don't even know where he's playing. Is he in Miami too? I got a lot of Dolphins and a lot of Browns. Ugh. So that's what I'm running out there for running backs, and then tight ends. 2 guys on very cheap contracts, hoping one of them pops. Maybe not necessarily this year, but I got Clive Walford, and I've got Dwayne Allen. Indy just signed Dwayne Allen to a pretty expensive contract for quite a few years. Hopefully that means that they use him. Fleener has moved on to New Orleans, so that opens up for Dwayne Allen as the clear-cut tight end 1 there. If Andrew Luck stays healthy, that could be a high-powered offense. If we look at my wins futures, I am ever so slightly higher than St. Louis. My peak is solidly at 5, maybe even between 5 and 6, but still not good odds to make the playoffs. Win my division. I think that my division odds are worse than, they are the worst in the league, because I've got Doug, who's a top 4 team, and I've got Ivan, who could be flirting with a wild card slot, rather than Seattle and DDP, like St. Louis does. So St. Louis has better chances of winning his division. I have better wild card odds than he does, but it's not looking good for me for this year. My predicted record, I don't think that even gets 5 wins. I'm going to say 4-9 for me for this year. But again, this will be the last time in this video that I mention this. I'm stacked starting next year already. 8 of the top 14 picks. I got to find roster spots. I have to find contract years for all those guys. So when I combine those picks with Treadwell, Coleman, Duke, Sims, and Winston, should have a good team starting back next year. Hurricane season is coming at the next episode, 2017. I will be back, maybe even shortly, maybe tonight, with number 10. I don't know yet who that's going to be. Peace.